Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating philosophical framework about waking up to the absolute mystery of our own existence. You know that feeling when life just becomes this endless series of routines? Like everything around you is so painfully familiar that it's basically invisible? Well, today, we are exploring a profoundly beautiful concept that hits the brakes on that exact feeling. We're looking at the philosophy of amazement, and we aren't just talking about a fleeting emotion here, but a fundamental way to truly awaken our souls to reality.
Let's jump right into this gorgeous opening thought from our source material. We all fall into habits, right? It's human nature. Habit is literally what makes the world feel ordinary. But amazement? Amazement is the spark that completely shatters that dullness. It's that exact moment the mundane suddenly becomes miraculous again.
Which brings us to Section 1. What is true amazement? Moving beyond mere surprise.
So, the crucial point we need to get here is that amazement actively interrupts our habits. Think of it as the experience of being stopped dead in your tracks by reality. It hits us when something appears greater, stranger, or just way more beautiful than we ever expected. And it forces our minds to ask those much deeper questions. When we're amazed, we aren't just passively sitting there observing. We are jolted right off autopilot and invited into a much deeper inquiry about the world around us. Now, it's super important to separate just a fleeting feeling of surprise from true amazement. Surprise happens when an expectation gets broken. It's quick, it's temporary, like you jump when a door slams or you're shocked by a crazy plot twist. But amazement, that is when reality vastly exceeds your expectations. It's deep. It doesn't just say, "Whoa, didn't expect that." It says, "Wow, reality is infinitely greater than I ever realized." It literally opens the mind up to profound mystery instead of just giving you a temporary shock. And this mindset, it completely transforms us personally. Just think about the arrogant self versus the amazed self. These are two completely different ways of moving through life. The arrogant person assumes they already know the whole shebang. They constantly try to dominate and categorize reality. But amazement, it acts like a cure for that arrogance. The amazed self receives reality with real humility, realizing there is always more to see. Actually, you really just can't be truly amazed and arrogant at the exact same time.
Moving right into Section 2, finding wonder every day and the catalysts of amazement.
When we force ourselves to slow down and pay attention, we realize wonder is just hiding in plain sight. We can find it in the cosmic and natural, the sheer scale of nature, the vastness of the universe, the mind-bending mystery that there is something rather than nothing. But hey, amazement isn't just for telescopes and grand mountains. It's right here in the everyday human experience. The simple miracle of a living, breathing body, the emotional gut punch of a great piece of art, or just a spontaneous act of human kindness. The whole thing is utterly astonishing when you take off those glasses of routine. I absolutely love this specific cultural example from the text because it shows how everyday life gives beautiful physical form to shared wonder. In Filipino culture, amazement isn't some isolated intellectual exercise, it's incredibly communal. It's found in shared meals, amazing family closeness that spans generations, and honestly, finding humor even during really tough times, like cracking a joke when literally everything is going sideways. And I really have to highlight Bayanihan. This is a brilliant cultural philosophy of shared life, where neighbors physically and emotionally show up for each other. It just proves that wonder can be deeply woven right into a community's everyday DNA. But we've got to stop and ask ourselves a pretty critical question here. What actually happens when a society loses its ability to be amazed? What happens to us when we start replacing genuine wonder with something, cheaper? Because, let's face it, not everything that grabs our attention is actually good for our soul.
That brings us to Section 3, the enemies of amazement, the real thieves of wonder.
Look, we so often confuse entertainment with wonder. I mean, be honest, how many times have you found yourself doom scrolling on your phone just looking for a quick hit of dopamine? We've all been there. Modern tech gives us constant, relentless stimulation. Entertainment imitates amazement by throwing quick spectacles and constant distractions our way. But it's shallow. It completely numbs our capacity for real mystery. True wonder, on the flip side, isn't about mindless consumption. It's about depth. It wakes up the self instead of just putting it to sleep with distractions.
So how exactly are we losing our sense of amazement? Well, habit and daily routine put us straight on autopilot. Modern busyness basically forces us to rush right past the extraordinary. And of course, overexposure to constant novelty leaves us perpetually impatient. Then there's that arrogance we talked about earlier. But perhaps the absolute most dangerous thief of wonder is cynicism. It's so often born from a wounded intelligence, like a defense mechanism against a world that has let us down.
This specific insight is just incredibly powerful. Cynicism tries to protect you from disappointment by deciding, ahead of time, that nothing is truly beautiful or surprising anymore. It's a shield. But amazement? Amazement answers back so beautifully, you may be wounded, but reality is not exhausted. Choosing wonder absolutely does not mean you're naive or childish. It means you are bravely refusing to let past disappointments slam the door on the endless depth of reality.
Let's look at how we fix this in Section 4, the path to wisdom and cultivating wonder.
It all starts with the most fundamental realization of all, confronting our own existence and, our own mortality. Philosophically speaking, the absolute deepest amazement is simply that anything exists at all. It's wild to think about. And because our lives are finite and temporary, every single ordinary moment is actually unbelievably precious. When we really internalize that time is fleeting, the mundane suddenly snaps into focus as a miracle.
So, here is a fantastic, practical framework from our source material to help you cultivate this every day. Step 1 is attention, literally just slowing down to see what your daily habits are hiding from you. That deep attention triggers Step 2, amazement, where the world is allowed to become delightfully strange and vast again. And naturally, that flows right into Step 3, gratitude. When you're truly amazed by existence, you start seeing life itself as an incredible gift. Finally, the whole thing culminates in wisdom. Wisdom is what happens when you combine the wide-open nature of wonder with the focused discipline of thought. It's way more than a feeling, it's a profoundly awake way of living.
We're going to wrap up our explainer today with a pretty provocative final thought. The world does not become shallow because we grow older. We become shallow when we stop looking. So I want to leave you with this challenge. What ordinary thing in your life right now is just waiting for you to pay attention to it so it can become a miracle again? Never stop looking and always remain awake to the breathtaking depth of reality.